Okay. So, do we know that there are people in the stream, or is it more? We will not come to know, right? Okay, okay. So, hello everyone. I think thanks for the opportunity from Distacart to present us live. So, I'm the founder of Indic Organics, uh, one of the founders, in fact. We started this company about 1.5 years back, and it was a venture between me and my wife. I think one of the main drives or motivation to start this company was way back when 3 years ago we had a baby, and we found it extremely difficult to source a particular cow's ghee, even though we belong to the area of Dakshin Kannada and Mangalore. It is a part of Karnataka, it's a part of coastal Karnataka. That's where we belong from. That's where the company is also based out of. Now, even being from the this very area, we found it very difficult to source a particular breed's cow's ghee, yeah, for the baby, because that was one of the prime source of a lot of nutrition for the baby. So that's why we wanted to source it, and found it extremely difficult. That's what I think that's the reason why we started this entire initiative. Came to know that there is one breed of cow called Malnad Gidda, which is basically a native of Western Ghats area, right from Konkan belt to almost Kerala. So where the Western Ghats are predominantly, I think that's where this breed of cow uh, from. And its milk is highly rare because it just gives about 1.5 liters per milk per day. But then that 1.5 liters of milk is almost as potent as 25 liters of your Jersey cow's milk, which we all used to drink at least, in our daily life. So this milk, when it's converted to ghee, it is said to contain a lot of omega fatty acids, which is highly important for the brain development of the child. So that's the reason I think why we wanted to source the ghee predominantly, and that's how we started this company as well. So currently, our model works is basically that we source this ghee from a network of cooperative farmers who breed these pure wheat cows. Because you need to understand that any farmer who basically breeds these cows in the number of about 20 to 40 cows, that's the size of farms which most of the farmers have. So they are only able to produce about 4 to 5 kgs of ghee per month, and that needs to be sent to us. And it's a logistical nightmare actually, because the entire area is spread around in a radius of about 100 kilometers where we source it from. In fact, more than that. In fact, about 300 kilometers, because we have started procuring from the neighboring district as well now. So each batch is considered between the range of same about 4 to 5 kgs or maximum six kgs. So the transportation of the ghee in that 6 kg batch from about 300 kilometers is a big logistical nightmare, and that happens once in a month. But then we still do it, and before that they have to also go under the strict selection process of how do we sort of what breeds are they keeping in their farms, are they so one of the important factors how we choose the farmers is that are they raising the male bull cows. That is highly important, because only if they are raising male bull cows there is a possibility that they will not undergo artificial insemination. So that's the reason why we keep this criteria. And once they are suited in this all these criteria, so we sort of start collecting the ghee from. And most of our farmers don't have any other breeds than this Malnad Beta. So, talking about the importance of the ghee, I think this is one of the rarest ghee which has the highest percentage of omega 3 fatty acids. Not just the percentage, I think what is more important is the ratio of omega 369. So in the Western society, there is a lot of debate about what is the ratio, what is the perfect ratio of omega 369 in any foods. So, only when the ratio is perfectly balanced, it is called an ideal food. So, I think this is one of the rare foods in which you can find the combination or the ratio in a very naturally balanced way. I think that's also the reason why it is so rare, why it is so scarce. I think the milk output is so less, but then even after that, I think it is worth it. It's a bit it's a bit on the expensive side if you compare normal ghees, but then I think the rareness comes from, one is the scarcity, and also the fact that there are few number of cows which are left currently, and that's the main conservation moment which we are trying to I think do here. Support the farmers financially so that they are incentivized to basically breed these cows, and in the hope that in the future more of these farmers will join into the bandwagon, and hence I think the conservation movement will catch up, and we will see a lot more number of these cows in these two districts of Karnataka. So that's largely, I think, and apart from that, so yeah, ghee is one of our main products. So because of popular demand, we also started to procure Girkau ghee also for our product portfolio. So that also we have in our product portfolio. And then we have recently, about some time back, we have launched Western Ghats raw honey. That also comes from predominantly the same network of farmers who basically do keep beekeeping, and all of these farmers, since they are residing quite deep into the forests of Western Ghats, they sort of do the beekeeping and collect and then harvest the honey. And the only difference between others and ours is that what has happened these days is a lot of these beekeepers have started using sugar syrup. Not no, they do not mix it directly to the honey. What they do is they give it as a feed to the honeybees, uh, in the almost the entire season, in the entire year. So what happens is the honeybees basically just suck on the sugar syrup. They just drink the sugar syrup, which is kept outside in a bowl in of their beehive, and they keep on producing the honey. So that kind of honey is highly substandard honey. It is not basically the nectar which is collected from the flowers. So in our case, I think we don't do that. So what happens is the bees are bound to go out to collect their food, which is basically nectar in this case, and that's how they produce very good quality honey. So I think that's also one of our fine products which is doing very well. I think these are the broad two category of products which is there, and then very soon we are also planning to come out with palm jaggery and Gulkand, which are both ideally very healthy products. And that's pretty much, I think. Uh, so there's a question, I think, why is artificial insemination bad? So what happens is, it is not a natural process of breeding for cows, right? So, there is a certain hormonal process which the cows have to go through to be able to sort of, it's through the natural way, how it happens, there are certain female hormones which come into play when the cows are naturally, bred. So, in the artificial process, what happens is you have to artificially induce those hormones to the body, and that is actually dangerous because we inject a lot of hormones to the cows then, and help them reproduce, which actually has a negative effect. And what happens is the same hormones directly flow into the milk afterwards. So that's the reason I think these days, if you see, there is a big uh, increase in certain disease, in especially in female children, even young children, called PCOD or PCOS. It's a largely reproductive disease which is caused by imbalance of the hormones. I think milk is the single biggest reason, as per me. I believe this because that is the only source where you can get external hormones from, injected hormones from. So that causes some of these disease, uh, and it's also not fair. It's a part of animal cruelty, which you can say that you, for your own gains and needs, you are basically engaging in something unnatural. Honey doesn't have sugar syrup. So, one is a very clear, I think, very basic test, lab test, which can be performed. That to say that honey doesn't contain sugar syrup. But then these days, we have found out innovative ways, I think, to adulterate the honey. So there is something called C4 honey, which is marketed in China as Indian honey. So C4 is nothing but basically corn based sugar syrup, which basically is mixed by, even a lot of big companies do that these days. Like Dabur, Patanjali. I think there was a big scandal which happened some time back in India, which is called Honeygate. So a lot of these brands, big brands like Dabur, Patanjali, have been found to contain the C4, this thing. So it will, to an extent, you can find out, but then I think after a certain extent, because human beings are getting very smart, I think you will not be able to find out by any kind of a testing or certification or anything. So largely, what it comes down is to the character of the company or the founders who are doing whatever who are selling these products. So I think character becomes the biggest certification in these times, because ultimately you will never be able to rule out all these adulterants, because you will one cannot keep, because as the test keeps changing, the adulterants keep changing. That's been happening in this industry for a long time. That once the FSSAI comes with new set of rules, I think the adult trends change. Then the old set of tests are not valid anymore. So that is, I think, a few questions. If anyone else has any other questions which you want to ask, please, we'll be happy to take them. I think since I think I don't have any questions here till the time I think somebody else asks any other question. I think I would like to definitely say that I think the Distacart has come out with this entire platform for Indian sellers. I think, which is really a good for uh, good initiative for both the sellers as well as the buyers, because in one place I think the buyers get to choose a variety of Indian products. And all of us know that once I think anybody travels outside and starts living there, so one thing which they miss out on most uh, is the Indian products. So I think thanks Christopher for that, and it also helps sellers like us to basically sell our products to external audience. especially for those who do not have all the export clearance or export certifications and all those things. So it is a platform which is helping both the buyers and sellers. So we have one question from Santosh. What's so special about the Malnad Gidda breed of cows? So I think, as I was explaining in the first part of the conversation, so one is that these cows are very rare. Okay, not just by numbers, it is rare by numbers as well. Yes, but then the milk quantity which these cows produce is highly low. You know, it just produces 1.5 liters of milk. Now, if okay, if it produces 1.5 liters of milk, what is in it for me? So now what happens is you need to understand that the milk basically is for the calves. So we can safely say that 1.5 liters of this cow's milk is equivalent to almost 25-30 liters of a Jersey cow's milk, or even about 7 to 8 liters of the Gir cow milk, because the Gir cows usually give about 7 to 8 liters. In some case, they also give up to 10 liters. So 1.5 liters equivalent to 10 liters of Gir cow milk. Now, we have done some testing, as per like why this milk is highly more important. So one factor is that there's a certain iron binding protein called lactoferrin, which is like of the highest quantity in these breed cows. Uh, in these breed cows, so lactoferrin is the highest among all the native breeds of cows. Uh, Native breeds of cows. So I think that is one point. But apart from that, I think what is more important is, see, the milk is only as good as what is the cow's eating, basically, right? So even if, let's say, I take a Malnad Gidda cow, keep it in my house, and just feed it some grass, its milk will become substandard quality. But the beauty of this entire initiative, what we are doing is that most of our, I think almost all our cows, wherever they are situated slightly very close to these Western Ghats forests. So now, since these Western Ghats is basically a biodiversity hotspot, which comprises of very rare, Ayurvedic flowers and herbs and plants and all these things. So a lot of these comes naturally a part of these cows' diet. So that's the reason I think the milk becomes highly enriched in Ayurvedic and medicinal properties. So it's largely the fodder or the feed of the cows basically which determine the quality of the milk. So since these cows are basically forest grazing, and that's how they are basically, you cannot basically rear them in any farm. It does not work that way, because these breeds of cows do not basically stagnate at one place and eat. They have to be in the out in the jungles, and they have to roam, and that's how they eat. Okay, and they eat what they want basically. So that's how I think the milk becomes highly potent. So I hope I answered that question. Then there's one question from Ravi Kumar, which says that do most major companies that sell milk. See, I am nobody to comment on that, but then you can definitely go through one of these major scandals which happened in India, which is called Honeygate. You can just type Honeygate on Google, and you will get a lot of information on the various companies. Big companies I'm talking about, right? From Zandu, Dabur, Patanjali, Saffola, all these companies. So it was a big scandal which happened, and it was found that a lot of these companies were mixing something called as the C4 sugar syrup into their honey and selling it as honey. Yes, that did happen. So Vijay Kumar is asking, how is Ayurvedic ghee different from normal ghee? Uh, so Ayurvedic ghee, as in like we do not call our we call our ghee as Ayurvedic ghee, but then that does not mean that if we add any external Ayurvedic medicines or some formulations into the ghee. Okay, it is a normal ghee. You need to understand that it's a purely cow ghee. It's actually not made in a desi way, but then every ghee has its like some medicinal or Ayurvedic potency or Ayurvedic properties. Like that, for example, some ghee as a product is very good for your gut, your internal lining of your gut, and then it is also beneficial for all the microflora, which is basically develops inside your intestines. And then there are thousands of properties which I think we have written certain articles on our website about the Ayurvedic properties of tea. You can definitely go through that. But then ghee as a product is naturally Ayurvedic. So, but then what happens is the Malnad with the ghee has a not slightly, I would say, much high potency of these Ayurvedic properties because of the feed pattern of these cows. So that is one question which we had. I think this is a very good opportunity for the audience to get any of their questions or any of their comments clarified. We've received one comment from Instagram saying Kutki is safe to use. I do not really understand what are we referring to here. I'm not sure about what the question is. I do not really know what Kutki is also. Sorry, apologies from my side. I don't think so. This it's anything to do with our products per se. I just quickly Googled to check what is Kutki. I think it is showing that it is some Ayurvedic herb basically, and the person is asking, if it's safe to use. See, I'm not the right person to answer this question. You need to ask. It depends on your conditions also. Are you pregnant? Are you not? A lot of different varieties of conditions which you might have. So it also depends on your body structure. Like, what is your body dosha basically. There are three types of dosha. Everybody knows. So, does this herb basically is compatible with your body is something which you need to ask your Ayurvedic practitioner, I would believe. So I also like to, just add a couple of points since we are not seeing any much questions here. I think one factor which a lot of the customers ask us saying that why is this key expensive? In a way, I have already answered this question, but then I would still like to reiterate the fact that see, we need to understand that every 1 liter of ghee takes about 28 to 30 liters of milk because that's the in cow's milk the fat percent about 3 to 5%. It is actually lesser. It's about only 3%. They say average it to 5%, but then it's actually 3%, 3.5%. Now, if you take that into account, you will definitely not need not less than 30 liters of milk to make 1 liter of. Now, let's assume that uh, 1 liter of milk in any city today, retails at about, especially I'm talking about A2 milk, right? In any you go to any city, there are people ready to buy A2 milk for at least 100 rupees per liter. If not, let's say even villages, the demand is less, the price is lesser, but then still it is not below 80 rupees because we know, there are people ready to come to your house at 4 a.m. in the morning with a bucket, and they're ready to collect milk if you're ready to supply them really good quality A2 milk. So now if the milk is retailing at 80 rupees per liter and it takes about 20-30 liters of milk to make 1 liter of ghee, we need to understand that the economics of milk doesn't work out because it will take at least 2,008 and 2,400 rupees at least. I'm saying, to make 1 liter of ghee. I don't understand how these other companies, what are they doing? Like how are they basically selling the ghee at even lower price? Because it the economics doesn't basically, it doesn't make sense. Okay, we have some questions now. What quality control do you use to make sure that your tea is safe? Now, that's a very important question. I think that that's something which we are passionately involved in as well. I think, and this is by Bulli Raju. One of the basic factors is that we have introduced something called a QR code in every bottle of our ghee. Now, when you purchase any bottle of the ghee from our products, in fact, for that matter, any product of ours, you have a QR code on the bottle. Now, you can scan this QR code through any of these Google Lens or any other, QR code scanner, and what happens is it directly links to our website, and you get the test report of that specific batch, that specific batch which it was produced from. So you get the test report of that specific batch. So if you once you get the testing report, I think it pretty much clarifies any questions you would have. But then on the back end, we also take a lot of care and care, because it's all about maintaining SOPs. In our case, because we need to ensure that the farmers are treating these cows right. Okay, so no artificial insemination is happening. So that we make sure by making sure that the farmers are only are keeping the male bull cows. Now the male bull cows actually doesn't have any other use. Okay, so that's the reason why they are mostly also sent to slaughterhouses today in India, because they just keep eating, they just keep consuming, they don't do any work, because most of the agricultural activities are being done by mechanized machines. So the bulls don't have any much work. So they are largely consumer. So that's the reason why they are not kept in the farms and then they are sold off. But then we only make sure that we collect the ghee only from places where they raise the bulls. Now what happens is once they raise the bulls, they don't have any other job. They just have to reproduce, and they just are kept there so that the breed purity is maintained. So that these farmers don't go to these animal husbandry department and ask for artificial insemination. The funny fact is, even till today, after about 40-50 years of our independence, the animal husbandry department or the the cow department, whatever it's called, it doesn't really have the semens of Indian breeds of cows. Even till today. So what happens is, any farmer goes to them, they just inject the Jersey cow semen to the Indian breeds of cows. So that's how most of the Indian breed cows also have gotten corrupted across. Yeah, across India, so only where I think people are having bulls and they are doing natural breeding, that's where the purity of the A2 breed is maintained. Otherwise, it's largely become A1, A2, and we will never be able to find out which is A1, A2, and because then that you will have to go to the genetics, you will have to go to the gene testing level, which is very expensive affair, and it doesn't happen also in India. There are only few laboratories in the entire world who can do that kind of testing. We will never be able. So that's the reason why we thought that let's not take any risks, and we will only take from farms where they are. I think that's why I think our limit quantity becomes very very limited. So even till today, I think we are talking so much, but then still I think we are not selling more than 80 kgs ghee per month. That's the quantity. It's not basically a constraint of the demand; it is a constraint of the supply. We do not have any more quantity than that. We just have so much, and it will not increase also drastically in the coming months or coming years. It is a very very linear increase. It is not an exponential increase. So I think somebody is asking, Mr. Ravi Kumar is asking, what is the benefits of ghee? I think we will have to spend an entire day, frankly, to discuss the benefits of ghee. Because, but then I would suggest you to just check our website. We have written some blogs in which we have separately written how is our ghee beneficial for babies and pregnant women and lactating mothers because of the omega-3 content. And then why is the ghee important for people who are also old slightly, who are reaching about 40, 40, 50? Because the bone starts sort of losing its density, and the ghee helps basically to maintain the density of the bone. So that's one area. Then it's very important to basically give you a mental clarity. What is happening these days is, due to a lot of stress, I think we are going through a lot of mental disturbances. It could be anything to do with mood swings or depression. That largely happens because your mental capability is low. We do not have the kind of I think the stability in our minds so much. And a lot of these problems can be solved by consuming really good quality desi cow ghee. You can check a lot of videos. A lot of Ayurvedic practitioners are saying this. Even Sadhguru said this just about yesterday, the day before yesterday, in some video which I saw. I think, and for that you need to understand the concepts of Ayurveda, and a lot to do with your own, self, and how, because he as a product is a very divine substance. It is basically one of the most, what do they call as the ojas producing substance available to mankind. So ojas is basically nothing but, at a cellular level, the energy or the vibration inside each cell. So when each cell in your body has a lot of positive vibrations, the entire structure or the entire human coordination happens at a very in a very smooth way. So only when there's a lot of lethargy in the cells, there's a lot of negativity, or I would say a negative energy inside the cells, which is not able to sort of go through. That's when I think the coordination gets disturbed, and a lot of these problems can be solved by very good quality ghee, because it definitely brings in a lot of mental clarity, because the science also has proved it, because omega 3 as a component, which is in the ghee, is highly important for the proper functioning of the brain, because brain is nothing but a big lump of fat, right? Brain is nothing but fat. It's almost 90% fat. It's just pure fat. So if it is just a pure fat, you need a lot of good fats basically into your system, which basically nourishes your brain. Okay, somebody is asking, Mr. Sudhir is asking me to understand the benefits of raw extra virgin coconut oil. Yeah, I think that's also something which I want to touch upon, because see, raw extra virgin coconut oil. First, you need to understand that this type of oil is not a normal coconut oil. So I'll tell you very quickly the difference between normal oil, coconut oil, and virgin coconut oils, because everybody today is selling raw virgin coconut oil. So a normal cold pressed coconut oil, even if it is called cold pressed coconut oil, that is something which is extracted from dried copra, right? It is basically, the coconuts are dried out in the sun, or in a chamber, or in a heating machine. They are dried completely, so the moisture content gets evaporated, and then you extract the oil by pressing the copra. No, that is just normal cold pressed coconut oil, and that's not so expensive. That's quite cheap actually. Now there is another grade of coconut oil, which is basically raw extra virgin coconut oil. Now, for any oil to be called raw extra virgin coconut oil, it has to be extracted from the fruit directly, without any kind of a drying mechanism. Now, in coconuts, what happens is the coconut is basically extracted as a milk. The meat of the coconut is extracted as milk, coconut milk, and then the coconut milk is basically rotated at a very high rotated at a very high RPM, basically rotations. So what happens is the oil in the milk gets separated. Now that's the process actually. It's called wet centrifuge process. In which the entire process, the oil does not cross room temperature. Okay, so it is always at room temperature. Now that's when I think the most of the nutrients of the coconut oil gets preserved. And that's how raw virgin coconut oil is actually. But most of them are selling cold pressed coconut oil itself as virgin coconut oil. And there's a huge difference in the costing. Please understand, so now to understand the benefits of raw coconut, extra virgin coconut oil, we need to understand something called MCTs. Now, MCT is basically medium chain triglycerides, which is basically there in any kind of an oil. Okay. So now MCTs are the one component in the oil which is immediately broken down or broken down by the body. Now, because it contains short chain fatty acids, okay, it contains short chain, which means it is basically from C4 to about C9 or C10 or something. So in that range of the fatty acids, it is easily broken down. Now, when you consume oil which have higher percentage of MCTs, it is easily digested by the human body. Okay, there is no leftover, this thing which gets converted to fat. Now, that's the reason if you see a lot of if you go to southern population of India, deep south, I'm saying, especially Kerala, there is the incidence of obesity is very less. It's actually very, you can see it through your eyes. If you go to Kerala, the incidence of obesity is very less. Or versus if you go to Punjab or northern area, I think the incidence of obesity is becoming increasing day to day because of into the introduction of all these refined oils. Okay, in especially in the coastal belt, even in Karnataka, there is nothing called nobody consumes refined oil. Everybody consumes coconut oil. Okay, everybody in every home they consume coconut oil. Now, coconut oil is actually, if you compare all the different categories of oils, I think coconut oil is the most healthiest of oil available to us. But then there's a lot of Western, scientific diaspora working against this lobby, against this coconut oil lobby because they are afraid their olive oil lobby will get impacted. That's why we see a lot of articles coming from even Harvard. Actually, what happened is during the COVID times, the coconut oil increased tremendously because everybody started using, for their oil pulling, mouth rinse. A lot of people started using virgin coconut oil. That's when these Harvards, all of a sudden they found time to write an article about coconut oil. It's wonderful how these lobbies work basically. So I think they are worried about how to protect the olive oil industry, and I think that's why they are sort of because. But then there is a lot of research to prove that coconut oil is not at all bad for your human body. It is in fact good. You can there was a research done in among the Polynesian people, people living in the Polynesian countries. The incidence of heart disease in Polynesians is very, very low, and it's largely attributed to the diet. Okay, and that only comprises largely of coconuts and coconut oil. So I think it's very it's empirical evidence basically. What do you call in science? It's empirical evidence to basically suggest that coconut oil is good for even your heart a lot. I think that's a few questions which we had. So I think, yeah, somebody asked, I think, that how do we order the products or something like that. So I think you can just go to distacart.com and I think type for Indic Organics, INDIC or ORGNICS Organics, and you will find all our products. I think we have listed all our products there, and the good beauty of this is that they can all of you can order it from the comfort of your homes, and Distacart ensures that you it is delivered to you. Because they are a fair company, and they have tie-ups with a lot of big international shipping companies, and then they ensure that the shipping happens in a very time bound way, and you get the delivery as per the committed timelines. Because I think one of the biggest problems for buyers who are sitting outside India is to how do we sort of buy these products, and that's where I think this card comes into picture. I think that's largely the questions which we have had till now. If anybody else has some closing comments or closing questions, I think please go ahead and ask. Or otherwise, I think that's largely the comments or questions which you have had. So, in that case, we will just take some closing comments, or I will make some closing comments, and then we can close the session, I believe. Okay, so I think that's pretty much about it. So I think I'll definitely take this opportunity to thank all of you who are there on this live session. You've taken the time out of your busy schedules to come and join this event. And I hope this session was quite meaningful. I could give you some kind of pointers in terms of a general. Basically, we largely talk about we don't just talk about our products, but then in terms of concepts as such, because we are more passionate in terms of what we are doing in terms of I think our basic intention is to basically one is to develop the basic breeds in India, and how do we support that. So that's one of the reasons why I think why we are doing it. And also generally I feel I think there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of myths and a lot of I think negative marketing which is happening against a lot of Indian superfoods, which basically which is ghee. I think these days at least the Westerners are basically getting warmed up to the idea of they're calling ghee a superfood. But if you go 10 years back, there's a lot of negative marketing happening against ghee. Again, the same thing which is happening today against coconut oil. Okay, so somebody, but then that is changing. No doubt, there is research on both sides happening. That's a good thing actually. So I think we are here basically to propagate more. How do we make our way of life more healthy in a very practical way, because I think oil definitely is something which we need to focus a lot on, because that's the single biggest reason why a lot of even young people have heart diseases these days. A lot of young population is getting succumb to fatal heart strokes, and for me I think oil is the single biggest reason which affects that. So I think the right kind of oil for you to use at your daily for your daily cooking is going to drastically impact that. And if we can do something, at least impact some lives positively, I think that's what we would want to do. See, I'm not saying that only consume extra virgin coconut oil. Okay, even normal cold pressed coconut oil is also good enough. But then yeah, there are some difference in properties. But then if let's say if you want to compare a coconut oil versus refined sunflower oil, I think you should definitely choose coconut oil as a category. I'm talking about. But for some specific users, obviously, extra virgin coconut oil is much better. And that's the supreme grade of oil. There is nothing above that. I'm sure. So, so these are the things which we would like to impact. And having said that, I think much from our side, from my side, I think I did not properly introduce myself in the beginning of the conversation. I'll just take this opportunity to very briefly introduce. See, I'm actually a graduate from IIM Indore. I never say this a lot of times, but then it's important for me to say, because you can very clearly say that I am not from a 100% pure farming background, but then but then it's a passion which I carry. The farms have never been basically a family thing for us, but then it's largely a passion for me, and that's why I think that's the reason, especially the desi cows. That's something very close to my heart. These Malnad Gita cows again very close to my heart. That's the reason I think because I was doing pretty well in the corporate industry some time back, and I chose to leave all that behind and sort of do this small startup based out of Mangalore. Mangalore is also not a very happening city. It's a very calm and it's a very nice city, and I'm basically from here. This is my hometown, so that's the reason I think we decided to start this company here. So it's not one of those typical startups or which are behind funding and glamorous valuations and a lot of media hype. I think they are a very fundamental company, very very traditional company. Even though we come from a background, so whom with I have worked in companies like Michelin, Pidilite and all those things. And my wife, she had worked in Amazon too. So we come from a very strong company backgrounds. But then we still chose to make this a very very homely kind of a business. It's not the traditional the typical startups which are there out in the market. So we're not behind valuations or revenues. I think we are here to do fundamental business. And one of the main pillars of our business is very good products. I think that's the bottom line. I think we are here to just generate very good products. I think customers will come in. That's a part of the story. But then I think because we take at least 6 months to identify and launch new products. Only when we are sure that our products is good and it is going to make any difference to the consumers, and we have the right set of suppliers or vendors who can supply us genuine authentic foods, only then we sort of decide to embark on any new product. So you can be sure that whatever comes out of Indic Organics, whatever product line comes out of Indic Organics, it is going to be 100% authentic to what it claims to be. At least whatever it is claiming on the pack, that is what you're gonna get. It's not that you call something it and then you put inside something else because the regulation is allowing you to do that, and there's nobody checking. So we are not here to do all those things. I'm sure. So that's I think the credibility and trust which we also want to develop as a brand, Indic Organics, and so that's pretty much about it from us. And with that, I think we can close the session. So somebody is asking me to basically, list out all our products again. Not a problem. I think we have one clearly Malnad Gidda A2 ghee, which is our flagship product. Then we have Gir A2 cow ghee, which is almost the second flagship product. And then we have raw extra virgin coconut oil. Then we have raw Western Ghats honey. Okay, and we also have a variant of cold pressed coconut oil, which can be used for your daily cooking and stuff. Which is a cheaper version of the raw extra virgin coconut oil. So these are lastly the products which you have, and all of them are available on Distacart.com. You can go to Distacart.com and just type for Indic Organics, and you will see all our products there, and you can order from wherever, whichever country you are sitting in. I think they serve to almost I don't know a number of countries, but I'm sure all the major countries in the world today can be easily supplied. So please check on that, and then if you want, please go ahead and order it. I would say. So that's pretty much from our side. Thanks a lot. I think it was really nice having you guys here. And first of all, I would really like to thank all of you people to basically take out your time to listen to us. And Thanks from our side, and also to Distacart team and the management to allow us this opportunity. Thank you.